This is where we currently are, and you should have seen some example questions dealing with the four of those points to note. In this video, we need to go on to more complicated questions. Questions which will use dummies, which are edges with zero weight, and they're treated like secret passages to connect parallel links of a project. Now, they're used when multiple activities share some but not all preceding activities. And while that text on the screen there is very useful, it may not make any sense until you see the following. So we have an activity network on the left, an activity network on the right, and a precedence table on the left. And I just want to draw your attention to the following. In the row with activity D, we see that activity D depends on C and B being completed before it can start. And if you look at the row below it, activity E can only start when C is completed. And that raises a bit of a problem, because if D can only start when C and B are completed, but E can start when just C is completed, we essentially get two parallel parts of the project, and they need to be that needs to be resolved, and both parallel parts of the project need to be completed before the entire project is done. Now, if we look at the row with D in it, I've circled the C. The C is duplicated between that line and the line below, so C appears twice basically. And I've circled the C in what I'm going to refer to as the more complicated of the two lines. In other words, on that row there with D in it, D depends on both C and B. It depends on two things. E only depends on one thing, so I'm considering that to be less complicated. So what I'm going to do for these questions is circle the duplicated activity in the right-hand column, and then I'm going to draw a line from that to the activity in the left-hand column. And what that's telling me to do is I will complete my activity table, ignoring first of all the thing that's circled, that's the C on the D line, and then right at the end I'm going to draw a line from the end of C, that's the thing that's circled, to the start of the D. So the arrow that I'm drawing in is also telling you the direction of the dummy and where it goes from and to. Now I'll say that again, and then we'll have a look at the activity network just to verify that. The thing that's circled, the C, when I'm drawing my activity network, I'll first ignore it and complete my activity network. And then what I'm going to do is draw a line from the end of C, that's the thing that's circled, to the start of D, which is where the arrow is pointed towards. So look at the activity network on the right, and you'll see that that actually happens. The dummy, which I've drawn as C dash, goes from the end of the C activity to the start of the D. Okay, let's see a few examples. All right, so this is the same example as on the previous page, but I'm going to go through this in a little bit more depth. What do we know? So first of all, A and B depend on nothing, so they have to come out of the start node. Number two, we have 5 activities, 2 of which don't appear on the right-hand side. That's D and D. So that means D and D need to be going into the sync node. And this will give you an idea of how to first start off your activity network. You should be dealing with the start and the end separately and then trying to join everything up. What I'm then going to do is circle the thing that's duplicated, that is the C in this case, but I'm circling it on the more complicated line, and I'll ignore that. When I've got my activity network finished, so A depends on nothing, B depends on nothing, C depends on A, D depends on B only, and E depends on C, I'll finish my activity network like that, and then I'll draw a line from the end of C to the start of D, which is what we should have there. So again, we're ignoring the thing that's circled, drawing all of the activity network, and then putting in the dummy from the thing that's circled back to the left, which is to the D thing. Second example. So what do we know straight away? Well, A comes out of the start node. If we look at the right-hand side, G is missing, so G will go into the sync node. Other things that we should note there, A appears twice on the right-hand side, and if it appears twice on the right-hand side, it means that both B and C there will come out at the end of activity A. We also notice that on the line that says D for the activity, it depends on B and C, and F also depends on C. So I circle the C on the more complicated line, and I'm going to ignore that to start with. And then once that's done, I'm going to draw a line, a dotted line, a dummy, from the end of C to the start of D. So we should get something that looks like that. Okay, and the third example. In this case, I know that A, B, and C come out of the start node. If you look at the letters on the right-hand side, I've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I have no H, so H goes into the sink. And then if we look at the row with E and the row with G in it, B pops up twice, once before it goes into E and a second time before it goes into G, but also D has to go into G. So I circle the thing that pops up twice on the more complicated line. I'll ignore that to start with and complete my activity network. Once that's done, I'll draw a dummy arrow from B to G. Should look like this. Okay, so the next video I'll do out a few of those just in case there are any problems with them.